know certain people feel a lot of pressure to go up every year with a new show. No one's pressuring me. Nobody wants this from me. So I'm just doing it for myself.
In fact, they're saying, please stop.
Please stop.
Hello, my name is Caroline Clifford, and you are listening to the Needs Work podcast, a podcast where I have up-and-coming comedians on. We talk about a bit of theirs that maybe isn't working as well as they hoped, and we just try and dissect it, try and make it better. I was joined today by Suchandrika Chakrabarti, who is a London-based comedian who does all kinds of things. They do news reporting and character comedy, and it was a really fascinating chat. We talked about taking your show to the Edinburgh Festival. We talked about mixing styles in your comedy, how that works. And Suchandrika actually started doing comedy during COVID, if you can imagine. So that's very interesting. We talked about why people never sit at the front, and it's just a great time. So please enjoy this show. That's so funny. Your first gigs were actually during COVID, and like doing sort of online like Zoom gigs where you can see the audience all in little squares in front of you, and you're just in your bedroom or stuff like that. Did you ever put on like, I don't know, do like a funny effect or anything like that, or did you just like sit there?
I did, like, you know, you can do backgrounds on Zoom. So I started, because I've come from that journalism background, and I like kind of news-based. I like all comedy, but like news-based stuff comes quite easily, I suppose, because I've been working with that kind of thing in my career. So I put up, like, I put up a background with a little window, like it was an old, like a Simpsons cut to the news, and put a little stupid news story up there. And yeah, a bit of fun with the background, because you realise that it's like moving from, I'm not an actor, but it's like moving from stage to screen, and these people are seeing you really close up, and the background's even bigger, even more important. Sometimes I put like the brick wall, like the 90s brick wall.
The brick wall, of course. Got to have a brick wall.
Yeah, wear some flannel. So I think, yeah, like you don't have to, but if it makes you laugh, then it probably makes someone in the audience, you know, chuckle a little bit. So I thought, yeah, have fun with the whole frame, because the frame is now part of this thing that I'm doing. Whereas before, people could focus a lot more on me, body language, all that kind of stuff. That's not happening at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, because I was kind of still doing improv during lockdown and dark times, and we sort of found formats that just worked better for the Zoom kind of thing. So we do things where it was like a conference call or like, you know, a work meeting or things like that. But if we were trying to do what we were doing before, like doing heralds and like montages and stuff like that, it obviously just wouldn't work for so many technical reasons and so many other reasons about improv, where you just really need to feel people in the room. But the thing that put me off it forever was we just did like our house show or whatever, so it was online, and then you know how like you leave YouTube running because you're also watching it at the same time as doing it and just get one extra viewer, and I left it running, went and made some dinner or whatever. I came back, and obviously YouTube had done that thing where it was like, and here's like related content, and there was just like another Herald team playing from like another country doing their Zoom thing, like doing their Zoom Friday night thing, and it was just like so harrowing to see yourself reflected back to you through like other groups. And I was like, oh my God, this is like so torturously bad. Like, not because the improv was bad per se, but it was just like such the wrong format ever invented for like live improvisation that I was just like, what are we doing? Let's just play games or something. Let's just play Scrabble or something like that, you know. Why are we trying to carry on our lives as normal when nothing's normal at all?
And I think you're right, it lends itself to gamification a lot more, a screen. So that's like, I've got an Edinburgh show called Doom Scrolling, which I'm taking up this year, but in its sort of second format, I did it for an online festival on Next Up Comedy, and it's Mark Watson's, like it's kind of his audience, and they love games, like they play No More Jockeys and all these things. So I looked at what I was faced with. I was like, let's gamify this, let's make it much more quiz-like, much more interactive. And because I like teach as well, do like media training and stuff, like my training had changed as well, and it's like much more, how do you keep people interested? Like, this is really taxing on the eyes. What do we do at breaks and that kind of thing? And so you kind of think, well, how's the audience going to feel, and how can I tailor it? It wasn't the worst introduction, because it made me think about the format. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's a good story, because I can tell everyone what timing I had. My comic timing is better.
I certainly think that like every experience you have, no matter if it's like good, bad, or COVID, like it makes you the best at something, you know. So the fact that you actually entered it through this very unique route, not just like Zoom and everything, but through being a journalist and all these other things, you know, is definitely going to make. I mean, from watching your material, you definitely have like a fresh angle on doing stand up, and that's really really important, especially like going to the Edinburgh Festival. Like when I went there, I'd been there before as like a London comic, but sort of going back there after many years as a Berlin comic, the thing that really struck us coming from Berlin, which was at the time still quite a new scene, was there are just so many different ways to do comedy that we'd sort of forgotten about. You know, it's not just like a guy with a microphone. It's really all of these. At the time, this was before Taskmaster was on TV, and it was like a live show, and it was just like, you know, it was just rammed to the hilt like every night, and it was such a, like we basically like kind of stole that idea and all these other ideas to bring to Berlin. People were very grateful for it, you know, to just have like a bit of some fresh ideas to do it. Having said that, people do always come back to the microphone and like beer crate, because it's just so much easier to set up and you get so much more bang for your buck a lot of the time. I know that myself from running like high production shows. It's like, yeah, but you still might have 8 people in the audience. You know, nothing's to say that more people are going to come just because you put more effort into it. Yes, before we go on with the entire conceit of the podcast, I wanted to ask you quickly about Edinburgh, because I think that's something that would be very interesting to listeners, because even people from Berlin put together Edinburgh shows and stuff like that. So yeah, just let me know, are you doing free fringe or regular fringe? Is it your first time there? And just like, what are snags and just things that you think would be interesting for a podcast audience to hear about?
So it's my second time with my own show. The first time I went with my own show was 2022. And before then, I've been going up since like 2003, like didn't go for a long time, did go. I had friends at uni there, stay with them. And
few.
Yeah, God. So in the very early days, I mean, I think things were cheaper then, but my friends could stay during the summer, so they didn't get chucked out of the house. And I think students only get 11 months now, I'm not sure. But yeah, it was a very different feeling. But it's so exciting to me to go and like watch a comedy marathon that started at midnight and slept till 6 a.m. and it's very exciting. But yeah, in terms of a show, so I spent 2 years on this show, which feels really nice. I don't know if certain people feel a lot of pressure to go up every year with a new show. No one's pressuring me. Nobody wants this from me. So I'm just doing it for myself.
In fact, they're saying, please stop.
Please stop. As they did in Berlin when I tried to speak German there. 2 separate people. Please don't, Mom. And I haven't. But yes, this show, I had the idea. So I started writing just before I took my first show up in August 2022, and it's gone through so many drafts. It's changed what it is, because it's doom scrolling, because it's about journalism. It's obviously gigantic, and it could be about all the journalism, about lots of topical news jokes. For instance, a lot of Prince Harry, like the Spare Book jokes, but that stuff becomes old so quickly.
Yeah, that must be the trouble. You put all that work in, just as much work as anyone else would, and then poof, like it's gone in a month.
People just can't remember, which you can't blame them for, because I'm talking about the exact phenomenon, which is doom scrolling fills your head with stuff. And so, you know, if someone has to think for you to get the laugh, you've lost the laugh, haven't you? If they're thinking...
Yeah,
they're not
I'm
laughing.
thinking I'm not laughing, yeah.
So people had to go, Prince Harry, Spare the Book. So I'm like, I'm so sad to drop all these frozen Todger jokes, because they're incredible, but they are going. And so I had to think about, well, is it an emotional call? Like, this is a 1 hour Edinburgh show. I think it needs an emotional call. It doesn't have to be sad or tragic, but what is it? And I think it's about what use as an aunt to a niece. I think with my generation, millennials, a lot of us are not going to be parents, probably more than ever. And we're going to have aunt and uncle relationships, but what are they? Because they're a complete choice. They're not like a parent where you have to be present, but they can be as important as parenting. They have so much trust in you. And my niece has come out with really big questions, which I say in the show, like, me and my brother will be talking about 2016 or something, and she was born in 2018. So she'll be like, where was I? I don't know. Like, philosophy and science have not explained this. And so I think kids come out with that kind of stuff, don't they? Which like gets right to the point of the human condition. Yeah. You're like, oh, okay. So the one had huge questions.
Like worse people to trip with, it sounds like.
Yeah. They want answers, and they want serious ones. But also, I make up stories about unicorn princesses with her name. And so you're both those things. I read recently an old story in the New York Times, and it said aunts, and I'm sure this goes for uncles too. Aunts are both aunts are both authoritarian and anarchist, or authority maybe, not authoritarian. Like they're both someone you can go to in lieu of a parent, but not the same level. But also they can be ridiculous, and I think that level of the level of intimacy with the parent and expectation maybe isn't there, so it's a bit easier. So I thought that is something I care about and I'm interested in. So it has an emotional core and that stays unchanged. So I'm talking to her. This show is me, a version of me talking to a version of her.
Do you have good stories about relationships with your own aunts? Because that would be quite a good way to ground it as well. Because you made me think about my aunts right away, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, how they were just so different. I had one that was completely like outer space person, who was like, she said that she taught yoga to Princess Diana, etc., etc. And then the other one was German. Yes, end of story.
I actually didn't have a lot of aunting when I was young, which is maybe why I'm really trying to figure out what this role is. And in a way, like, I don't have to in real life. I'll just turn up. We have fun. We video call. It's easy. But I suppose it feels like there's a bigger think piece almost that I want people to be writing, like what are aunts and uncles? And also there should be a term for people who are non-binary who are in this position. And just what do we mean? Because also, like, kids of her generation, a lot more of them are only children. So in a sense, they won't be aunts and uncles. And I know they're very interested in siblings and she likes to be big sister of the kids. So yeah, I thought there's an emotional core there. I feel I've really made that emotional core so emotional by having a recording of my niece saying the word bollocks when she was 4. And so like her mum told me, like, oh, she's like the word bollocks, and people were blaming the mum, and I was like 100% the mum is not teaching her, but people will blame me if they hear
in her defence, it is a great word. It's a good word to say, so I don't see why.
She told me that she's learnt more naughty words since. She said the F-bomb the other day. Oh dear. Only when I asked her what more naughty words she learnt though. But so I'd taken a video of her and I was like, what was that naughty word you learnt? She's like, bollocks. And I was like,
bollocks.
Say it again. She's like, and she says it differently. She doesn't know where the emphasis is meant to go. She's like, bollocks.
Bollocks.
She just knows it makes adults go, what? And she gets a reaction. So I've taken that audio and I've put it in, and just like, I don't want to put it in too much, but if you put it in sparingly enough, at least she gets a voice, and at least she gets to like undercut some of my points. So she says bollocks at some points, and I've got a few little characters like Cruella Braverman. Who's that? Suella Braverman. And News Orca. That's when I bought this like latex.
Yes, I heard about that one on the tape.
Yeah. I saw that the New Yorker had designated 2023 the year of the orca, and there are just so many orca headlines. This idea of the sea and the sea of social media and the internet sort of came together as two metaphors. I'm not saying anyone has to ever make a show like that. That's just what I'm like as a person, which might be horribly off-putting. But yeah, I think I was happy it took 2 years. I let it take the time it took. Last year I was thinking of going, but I didn't get a venue before the brochure sort of wrapped up. So there's these very early... Yeah, these very early registration dates.
Tell me a bit about getting a venue. Like, did you go free fringe or did you pay for one? Like, how did that work in the end? So and what was it like flyering? Like, did you get lots of people, as many people as you liked to it? Like, what was your venue like and things like that?
So in 2022, my venue is called Paradise Green, and it was it's in the bottom of a church, and it's kind of... So Edinburgh is on 2 levels. There's a sort of...
Yeah, you've got the St George's level, which is kind of like the in crowd, isn't it?
Yeah, like... you can be on a bridge looking down on Cowgate going, oh, my venue's down there. How do I get there? Looking for stairs.
Yeah, Google Maps says you're there.
Yes, Google Maps.
Your destination, yeah.
Can't cope. So I was in the basement of this church. So that was already... I think the more you ask people to walk, the more you ask them to click through on a website, the less likely you're going to get all of them. It was also a dead end, and I was... I walked down an alley and flyered on Cowgate next to some bins, like a dumpster, and there was a bin strike that month, so the bins were getting worse and worse, which kind of fit with my show. It's called I Miss Amy Winehouse. It's about Camden and those years and partying. But like, you can see people not wanting to come too close by the end of the 3 weeks. I would say it was a tricky. So I was at 12:15 p.m. which is lunchtime in the normal world, but it's a very early morning in Edinburgh Fringe world, right? So between 9 a.m. and kind of midday, you have children's shows, and then really you're talking from sweet spot if you're going to have an afternoon slot is really looking between 2 and 5 p.m. That would be the dream. I was at 12:15 p.m. That's early. And then evenings can be tricky because you're in competition with lots of other comics. But really, if you're after 2 p.m, those are better slots. I was in an early one. It happens often when you debut. They put you in an early slot. And some days it was 4 people. Some days it was 22. I was in a 45-seater. And it was quite like, it was raked and it went quite high, the seat. So it could feel quite intimate. Or with a big... like in a good way, like people could sit quite near me. Or like the days it was filled could sometimes be harder to get a laugh from people, which is so bizarre. And I think it's about what groups they're in and lighting. And I think you learn a lot about how to make an audience comfortable if you learn nothing else, which is like have the lighting low enough they don't feel exposed. But I like the lighting to be just high enough I can make eye contact. So I do like to talk to them. I wouldn't make someone participate. I'm sort of hands off in terms of participation because I started in COVID. But I will talk to people. I'm up for a chat. And
make them hold emojis.
No, I haven't done, but like there's different ways you can get people who have badges and things. I don't go quite as far as that because I hope I'm fairly good at, you know, when someone's eyes just slip away from you quite quickly, they don't want the attention and they're not making a fuss about it, so they definitely don't want the attention. You're like, that is fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I don't think I'm a good MC, because as soon as I see that movement away from the eyes, I'm just like, oh, well, fine, I'm not going to interact with you. And then I sort of feel that from everybody in a way. I think it's sort of what makes me an introvert. It's just like, I guess nobody here wants to speak to me. Good night.
I suppose MCing's a little tricky when I ask a general question quite a lot of the time, and then if people seem up for it, then talk to them. But I think with MCing, it doesn't feel part of it asking that much of a general question. It feels like you've only got 3 minutes. You don't want to do your material because that's not appropriate. So you need to get quite quickly into like, talking to these 3 people in the front row. So at least you've got some names. So when the other acts come out, they're like, oh, you're a lawyer. See, there's a bit of a job to do that is a bit trickier than if it's your show and you're kind of going, cool, we've got an hour here, guys. That's, I'm getting to know you. So
listening to the material you sent me, I feel like you would be an excellent MC because the interaction you were doing with the audience was just very warm and very inclusive, very authentic right from the top. So I don't know if you do any general MC work or if you're just really good at warming up the audience.
I run my own night now called Good News, Bad News. That's every month.
Oh, great.
And so I'm doing a lot more of that. And yeah, it depends on how packed the lineup is. But if someone drops out, I can do some bits. But I think I don't love this idea. I hear it from women quite a lot, like, oh, don't want to sit at the front. I'm a bit scared. My own friend said this to me, like, early days. And I think this idea of this really combative relationship with the audience is so foreign to me. I just wouldn't do it as a person.
I mean, even at student shows and everything, like people don't want to sit at the front. It's like, what do you think these guys are going to do? Like tear you to shreds? Like, it's just not going to happen. They're literally so much more scared of you. And every single situation, nobody wants to sit at the front. Everyone has that fear of being picked on, being made a fool of in front of their Tinder date, whatever. But sometimes it just pisses me off because it's like, these are the best seats in the house. And now you're kind of making it weird for everybody.
Yeah, so this happens kind of everywhere then. And where does it come from? Like, what shows does it come from? What have we been watching about stand-up that makes people so afraid? Or is that how stand-up always was? Have I just really been so into alternative stand-up? Alternative, I'm saying like big quotation marks. So I'm talking about like the comic strip and that's, which is like alternative, but it's been around for a long time. Is it that people feel excluded? Do they feel like comedy excludes me anyway, so I'm going to be picked on? I don't know what it is, but I really dislike it.
It's just the fear of humiliation, I think. And, some people really have it and it's very valid. So, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. I wish there wasn't all these comedians around that made people instantly feel like they're going to be humiliated if they sit near the front or be talked to. And then, of course, the people that want to be picked on, they're not the people you want to talk to. Because they're going to be a huge nuisance.
You've got the other problem when they keep talking to you. So
you can't really win.
One thing, no, you've got to be really careful. You've got to have a feel for people, haven't you? And one thing I found really sad was there was one night of Good News, Bad News when there were a few people who were not originally from Britain, but they lived in London now, and they were in a group. And I was like, oh, come to the front. And they were like, oh, you're not going to like mock our accents? And I was just like, have people been doing that to you, because if anyone goes anywhere near that tonight, I will be telling them off immediately. That's not a joke. Anyone who has an accent that's not from here has travelled. That's more than I've done, and probably speaks other languages. That's more than I could do.
Yeah.
So there's no mocking of accents here, but they clearly had that kind of treatment. You don't know what level it was. It could be someone not quite understanding, but still, the fact they felt like that, I was just like, none of that happens here. That's terrible, and that's not what we find funny. But this idea of humiliation, I'm just so not into it at all. Let's be friends. I might tease you. Come on. You don't want to just be like lying in a warm bath here, somewhere you came out. But I'm not going to be mean, and I'm not going to use anything you can't change about yourself. It doesn't occur to me. I suppose I'm asking them to enter into my strange little world where I'm always playing a weird little character, and most of the acts in the night, they're often character comedy and clown.
Great.
And so you're saying, there's kind of a mix. Like, I love straight stand-up as well. I love people who are really good at that and can just get up there. I try to do a lot of straight stand-up as well. Is that the right term for it? Just me and a mic?
Actually.
Me and a mic and a brick wall.
I don't know what you would call it.
What's the deal with comedy?
Speaking of which, we should probably get on with the needs work part of the podcast.
Hi, my name's Suchandrika. It's nice to be here. Are you drinking tonight?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so that row is a no-go. Oh, are we all from Henley here, or have we come from afar? Big nod from these two. They never left. I come all the way from Putney, so I could have basically, if it flooded any more tonight, that's how I'm getting home. What else is going on? It's snowing in Devon, or it has been snowing overnight. Seems good. Little Easter snowfall in Devon. Yeah, how festive. Yeah, I'm not worried about the planet at all. What else is happening? So, the news. What do we think of this season of the news? Do we like it? No. Who is running that writer's room? Because I want to get into it, but also, they're not doing the best job, are they? I mean, basically no royal family left. I don't mean like that. I mean, long live, and I hope they're well, genuinely, but the Crown's ended. Where am I getting my fix from? Come on, guys. I'm concerned. I'm worried. Then let's not get into those conspiracy theories. My TikTok's basically empty now. After that, no. What else about the news? So I used to be a journalist, but I'm quite glad I'm not in the newsroom anymore because it's a nightmare. And like, people are switching off from the news, right? You're not. It's fine to tell me. I won't tell anyone. But you're not really watching the news, are you? No, it's awful. So
this was this first bit, and I want to give you my first observation about it, is that you came on and you had an incredibly lovely just relationship with your audience. It was just really nice. I loved all the interactions you had, especially when that bloke was like, "Yo, right, I'm drinking tonight," you know, and it was just like, just really, okay, we're avoiding that part of the room. And then as soon as you mentioned the news, it got awkward. It got really awkward in the room. And I suppose when people hear the news, and I'm trying to put myself in the seat of the audience, as it were, it's just like, oh no, like this is kind of, I go to a comedy club to sort of get away from this kind of thing. So it's now you have to do the job of working your way back and saying, no, this is going to be fun news, not that kind of news. But it's still like there's this like disconnect from how well you were doing and how much they loved you when you came on, to like, oh, I don't want to go to school, Mom, you know. So yes, it's interesting. It's for doing news type comedy, that it should be completely separated from doing a gig in Henley with all the blokes, you know. I think that for me, I would separate those things, or at least start much slower with, this is me, this is personal, this is you, this is crowd work, and give them a lot more of that stuff that they were obviously loving before we get into, and now the news.
Yeah, I should have milked it. That was such a good intro, because I came in with because they warmed up. There'd been one act on before. I was a middle act, and I had this big latex whale mask on my hand. So that's what I'm like. I put it on the side or something. So people are like, oh, when she. And I found that quite a fun prop in lots of ways. So I don't put it on until the end because it's horrible inside it, and it's not great to do comedy in it. But if you can imagine, it's like it's a whale mask. It looks like it's biting on my head. So you can kind of see my face, but it does take up a lot of my face. So it's not ideal. You wouldn't spend sort of an hour in it, but and it's latex and horrible in there. But I use it as a kind of Chekhov's gun but like people quite like that, I found. So that, it was a really warm entrance, and I like almost through it.
You were like, bye.
Why? I know, it's an odd room, so it's in a hotel, and it's like a hotel kind of nice dining room, and so it's this big massive room. It goes really far back. It's not ideal for comedy, but it's not terrible. But I can't blame this on anyone. I had this really great entrance and I was on the verge of losing it, and only managed to bring it back because so I did a bit of laying the ground, but I should have just talked to people a lot more, I think. You're right. And then I was laying the groundwork for like, here are some funny news stories, but I could have just started with like talking about animals. I should have definitely milked that a bit more, the welcome. And like, it's been raining a lot that day, so the River Thames is really high, and where I'm from Putney, that's like along the river, so I could have milked sort of the local stuff. That it's clearly that kind of room, because what I get with my Good News Bad News monthly night is people who are into the news.
Yes,
and that works with them. They're like,
I also do a news show, and it's like, yes, that's what they're there for. But if they're not there for that, I would really just pepper it in a lot more. And it's the same with because they always say play the gig in front of you and not the one in your head. And believe me, this is just like from hearsay. This is not I've not like studied what you're doing, but just from things that you sent me an email and stuff. Sort of, and what you were just saying about doing a character, having a mask and things like that. It feels like you're sort of just doing this little smorgasbord of all of these completely different types of styles of comedy, and sort of trying to mix them together for people who are. Like at the the Henley Chucklefuck Hut, and that's the thing is, unfortunately, we have.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, that's what I guess. I don't know. Henley is such a specifically like British kind of like like motorway. I'm from a motorway town, so game recognised game, or complete lack of game recognised complete lack of game.
It's a really great night. The guy Tommy puts on is lovely, but it's like basically the only. One of the very few comedy nights in town. Everyone turns up. I think it's about. I'd been so used to doing a narrower kind of show that, like, to broaden it out. It's like being on tour show. So like, this is Henley. What's local? This is going to work with people. They're drinking. They're having fun. And just kind of. There's always a panic there in me. I suppose not quite panic isn't the word, but. There were two roads to go down, and I knew quite quickly I'd chosen slightly the wrong one, and I was like, damn, come back.
You've got to try and sort of fish it back. And I suppose, it's so easier said than done when I'm just sat on my arse at home. But it's like, did it occur to you to go back to the crowd work, or did you think I've just sort of lost them too hard now?
I went on to the animal stuff because I thought that would win them back. I think, if I remember correctly, and it kind of does, because it then works with the mask thing, and it's a flag of like, this is going to be fun. Don't worry, this isn't going to be like a test. They didn't like the royal family thing. I felt
they probably they're on tenterhooks, aren't they? Like, what's she going to say to my queen?
It was just like it was like just slightly post the Kate Middleton hoo-ha. Yeah. Where's Kate Middleton? Like, imagine jokes about that now. But you can't because you can't. But yes, they'll probably think, where's she going to go with this? And if it had been a week earlier, I would have insisted on an empty chair there for Kate. But I can't do that joke.
I mean, you work in a newsroom, and obviously this is something you're incredibly interested in, but you have to also put your shoes in somebody who doesn't give a shit about the news, and they kind of went out to just get drunk and hear like boob jokes or something. So you have to play to those people as well. I would say my overall advice is to save the news stuff for the news shows, because I mean, even if you're seeing like someone who's like Jon Stewart, I can only think of Rory Bremner. What an old example. I'm trying to think who's doing like news related stuff now. I guess I remember seeing John Oliver before he went to America. But it's absolutely even on those nights it would be a particular kind of night that you would go to kind of see like current events, because a lot of people, and I can easily put myself in their shoes because I'm not living in England, so I'm not even really following those kind of news stories anymore.
What I'm thinking is like, let's find some really fun news. Like, the news I used to love when I was in newsrooms was animal news. It's the best kind. So I'm going to share some really fun animal news with you. It's a kind of news story that I'll share with my 5-year-old niece, is what we like to talk about, because she asks very piercing questions like, where was I before I was born? In my mind, I just think of the film Beetlejuice. There, you'll remember that. Yeah, okay, I know my audience here. No one too young. Because that is an 80s film. I just think of that death waiting room they go into after they die, and like one of them. But it seems too soon to bring that up with her. It is, isn't it? And then she asked, why was Corfu on fire when we went there last year? And I'm like, because your dad, my brother, makes very bad decisions. I love him. And then she's like, why can't I have a sausage dog? And I'm like, well, if it was my choice, I would let you have one. And that's why you don't have one, because your parents are responsible. Have we got any aunts and uncles in tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah? Are you aunts and uncles who don't have children? Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's what I do as well. So it's like microdosing parenthood, right? It's like, just have a little bit, keep away the anxiety and the depression, have a little cuddle, 7 hours CBeebies scrolling on the iPad, and then have her back. Well, where is she? She's over there on the pavement, crying, because the sky is too blue.
I love she's crying because the sky is too blue. That's really good. That's really memorable.
Very toddler
very
behaviour.
much like that. So I feel like so you introduce the animal news thing, and then you start talking about your niece. So I would kind of just make sure you section those bits out again, because you've got all this lovely stuff about your niece, and it's very relatable. I of course get the Beetlejuice reference, but as you could tell, it was pretty mixed from the audience. In which case, it would be pretty funny if, like, I would think you were explaining to your niece, like, all about how it's a very old film, and you know, a lot of people don't get Mummy's references, but Mummy likes her reference. Oh, sorry, Auntie likes her references, or something like that. You know, so you're kind of explaining the film while you're kind of we're being in the moment of you talking to your little, why can't I think of family things at the moment? Your niece, you know, then we can kind of really picture this scene where they're going, okay, Beetlejuice, yeah, sure, that was like literally, I don't know, 35 years after my birth, or whatever the date of that was, yeah, just like bringing us into it a bit more. But I feel like we kind of whistle through quite a few stops in this, and they're all really good stops that we should look around, like shine the torch around. So you have this thing about, like, you know, being an aunt is great because you can give the kids back. I think that's a really good thing that could be explored more. This thing about, like, explaining death is like a whole other thing to a kid. Like, how can we even explain it to ourselves, really? Like the idea of you explaining death to a niece and then getting really freaked out yourself is a good idea. I mean, sometimes, and this is like, I find this with a lot of British people, is that it's like, when we're talking about things, it's like, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It's fine. You know, and it's this kind of like tonal, you know, everything's great and everything's good. And it's sort of part of the way that we relate to humor in a way. But sometimes on stage, like, it's really good to just hear like a whip of emotion go into it, you know, like a whip of sad. Even if it's just like an aside kind of thing, it's like, I'm actually really fucking scared. And it just like kind of helps us, I don't know, it just helps us kind of, like, our hearts connect, if that's not too cheesy, and feel more about the material that's there, because it's the same in improv. It's like, if you don't sound like you care, then it's really hard for me to care as well. So yeah, that was just another overall thing, as well as realizing that this was like a weird gig, and so you're not going to be giving it your pow 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 performance.
I think I was trying. I was clearly feeling my way back to what is relatable here, which was niece stuff. Cute, like that worked with them, and I was like, I'm relieved. I'm not even conscious of this stuff, but whatever it is in your brain that's reacting while you're doing stand up and like always taking the temperature of that room, it's going, we pulled it back. They prefer this because it's universal stuff. Great, let's go down this road. And yeah, I think you're really right with the Beetlejuice thing. I'm just going, how do I explain this to a child? But why don't I unpack it in a ridiculous way? So let's go really far back. There's a man called Michael Keaton. He would become Batman. This is relevant. And just really, like, unpack it so
like,
badly.
I like Batman, not this Batman, right? Because, you know, like, get really nerd out.
Think 5 Batmans ago. Yeah. And then just, get absurd, I think, again, which is what I'm good at, I think. It's just unpacking it, but like the wrong bits are unpacked. So I'm just getting on a Michael Keaton.
100.
Mummy so really like Michael Keaton.
Especially to have like the kids, because the kid in this example is the straight character. So like, where was Batman before Batman? You know, like, just like, what? Because their questions are also the questions of the audience. So it'd kind of be fun to go into a little play there. I think that would be really fun.
I think there's a lot of mileage there with that,
But yeah, I think a lot of people. I mean, I'm not really an aunt, but I have some very young cousins, a couple of them, and so I think everyone can relate to this kind of thing for sure. It's interesting. I want to hear the thing that you care about, and I want to hear the thing that's important and emotional to you at all times, so I can be like, oh yeah, if I was you, I would be like that too, you know.
I guess I was testing out a chunk of my show in a sense. I was sort of taking a bit from my show, and it just always will work better with a bit of context. So I suppose here I've taken not 20 minutes, but maybe a chunk, and I could go more newsy with it, which isn't going to work with this crowd, and that's fine. Or I could go a bit more heart with it, which is what I think the art news thing is, and that's going to land better because there are more people who are thinking about family relationships than they are thinking about the news in that moment, or it's gonna get the laugh without the think if we want to go down that road. So I think that somewhere in my subconscious, the cogs turned and just took me that way, and that got the laughs back, didn't it? I got them back. And it's not even that long, is it, in terms of like how many seconds on the tape? But you could feel, that's why I sent that one to you, because I came in, have a good response, and then I lose it. And then, but I kind of get it back. And then, so the knee stuff is working. So I realise that, it's got to be about these universal things.
And, a laugh is just the beginning of a joke. So I think with all of these niece bits, you get like a laugh, and then you move on to the next subject. And it's like a laugh just means let's explore the fuck out of it, you know.
I'm the worst for that. I step on my own laughter still a lot, and I've really got to learn.
I don't even mean like talking over your own laughter, but actually let's really explore this subject. Like this could just be the heading to a whole new bit of yours, rather than just like I'm going to do a little gag and move on, I think these topics are so great. Explaining death to a kid and then getting too involved yourself while in the framework of Beetlejuice is like, it's gold.
I think for my show as well, it'd be nice to build that out and give my niece more of a personality beyond saying bollocks.
Yeah, Aziz Ansari springs to mind for a second there, because what's the name of his cousin or something? It's like Harold or something like that. And he, normally, especially in improv, you're like, don't talk about someone who's not there, kind of thing. Unless you can bring them into it. And I think he does a really nice job there. And then I wanted to talk about Jon Stewart for a second, in terms of people that talk about the news who make it incredibly relatable at the same time. And just this way that he'll always take a news story, and that's just the beginning of actually something very personal that he says, and he starts talking about the emotions of it and things like that, and it's really really good. And I, when we get to this next bit about the is it the squirrels having Sex and the City personalities, this is a great framework for something more personal.
See you next month. So that's my level. Any parents in? Yeah. Please guys, thank you for your service. Because it's hard to bring up kids, it's a lot of work. So let's get to the animals. Oh, and before we do that, so I think I started doing character comedy in the last year or so. And I still don't know. We're going to find out in the next 15 minutes. Basically, has anyone heard of the New Yorker? It's like quite a local publication for this city they've just discovered. They bought it for beads, I don't know, there's some backstory here. But New Yorker declared 2023 the year of the orca, which I enjoy because it rhymes. But also, I thought maybe it's worth throwing £14 on a latex mask from Amazon, and we'll see what happens, I don't know. He'll just stay there for now. I'll call him News Orca. He brings news from the sea. There's a lot of maritime news, which we'll definitely get to. News Orca here. It's a nightmare to wear. Smells of latex. I cry when I'm in it. So let's just see what happens. So my first animal story is squirrels have been found to have human personalities. So we've got 4 personality types, which apparently covers all humans as well as squirrels, which I do find offensive. So it's just bold, aggressive, athletic, what's that type? Social. So it's kind of like Carrie, Samantha, Miranda, Charlotte. So what do we think we are? What do we think you are? Have we got any bold in the house? I think I'm bold. I'm up here.
I'm definitely bold.
Oh. If you remember Henry Stanley next month, you'd have found out that I'm a nice comedian who isn't mean to people, so I'm not going to go down that road. But I appreciate you being here. So bold. I'm nice. I'm nice. So bold. We have you bold, Carrie. Aggressive, Samantha. Don't worry, it's not like a government thing. It's not a census thing. I'm not shopping anyone to anyone. Athletic? Got a few athletes in the house.
My name's Miranda.
Your name's Miranda.
Certainly not athletic.
No, let's if you don't feel that way, you're social. You can be Charlotte tonight. Anyone can be anything they want. So that's squirrels. More personality types than us, apparently.
What a great find, the squirrels. Sex and the City. And I assume if Sex and the City has those 4, that must go for like a lot of sitcoms. I imagine they kind of split into those, so you can identify with one of them, the 4 Harry Potter houses and things like that. So I wonder if there's even more kind of comparisons. And I like how you use it for a bit of like crowd work as well. I think that's really nice, particularly if you've like already met people in the crowd. So it's like like, oh well, we know aggressive over here or something like that. It's good. It works quite well. This, especially as it's like a news story, but it's a news story like with heart, and so we can kind of get into it. And it's probably not really going to date, right? Because it's kind of like a general, like it's sort of like The Onion kind of news story where it's about something that's always around.
Yeah, I've learnt the kind of news stories, stupid stories, probably about animals. They're perennial, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, I would say, again, just like go even more into these ideas as like, is that all we are? Is like bold? What about someone who's like athletic, that like wants to be, I've already forgotten the other 2. I can only think of bold and athletic now.
God, bold, aggressive, athletic and social. They make no sense. They're stupid.
And really, wasn't she one of them? She was actually like sexy. That was her thing. Is that they not have like one that's like sexy? Not sexy, but like sexual.
So
Samantha is the sexual one.
Yeah. What was good is that, so the girl who's like, I'm Miranda, so it got different people to engage with me, which was really nice. And it wasn't like those original guys, I suppose, because of the Sex and the City thing. So it got these girls on the other side of the room who hadn't spoken to me, clearly weren't afraid of me. And so that was quite nice. I was like, oh, I've got them now as well. But it's a very big room. So I'm at the back, I can't tell so easily. But the people at the front were sort of getting both sides. I'm like, great, this is good, good. Again, somewhere back here, we're not consciously thinking this stuff, are we? But the little hamster that's running my entire nervous system is pleased we're going down this road.
Yeah, it's good. I think though that even more you could like have act outs about these different squirrels and like, oh well, that one's obviously an aggressive one, and just other places where you can put this fun framework onto, this, and maybe even bring it back later when we've long since forgotten about it as like a clever callback. But these 4 squirrel types, these 4 personal types, you cannot be anything else, and maybe run some more examples because it definitely relates probably to
some more TV shows.
TV shows, Harry Potter.
So you got Seinfeld, but again, that's probably a bit that wouldn't get everyone in that room.
No, it would get everyone in this room. Points to room.
Yeah, which one to be which?
Okay,
Elaine's got to be aggressive. Yeah. Come
on. Social, I guess, is Kramer.
Kramer, because he will bust through the door. So that leaves athletic. I think Costanza lunge. It's an ironic athletic, which leaves Jerry as bald. No, okay, fine. Costanza bald. Bold. It's bold.
Jerry is bold.
I like that man saying bald. That was quite funny.
Yeah. 1 point for the audience.
Yeah.
Yes, you mentioned this mask that you've got, and it's almost like you're sort of embarrassed to be holding it or something like that, and obviously you sort of like need, as you say, it's like Chekhov's mask, so they can see that you've got it and things like that. And I think, maybe this is just my personal taste as well, but unless your whole thing is going to be, I don't know if you saw Baby Reindeer, but like scattering between all these different styles and having all these different things, I would really separate out these things a bit more. Now I realise that you're practicing for a show, so it's kind of like you need to practice these bits, but if I was just noting the microcosm of the show that you sent me, I would say like you've got too many styles going on at once and the audience are maybe having trouble trying to get into just one thing, so yeah, maybe just get one bit really strong, then another bit really strong, another bit really strong, and then kind of mesh those bits that are working really well.
I agree. I keep going like onto the news. No, onto this other thing. And like, I don't need those interstitial bits because they are the bits themselves. Just they can work. But by telling people I'm taking them somewhere and then taking them somewhere else is confusing. Yeah, I don't know why I'm doing that.
But it's great. Like for your own show, it sounds like you're making an audience that are there for this kind of thing. They're there for the news. They want to see the the news otter and things like that. So they'll be like you're crying out for these kinds of things. But yeah, in a regular gig, you've just got to like keep it a little bit bread and butter. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that was really helpful. I think there's definitely more I could work on with like having my niece's character, with this thing of like using a film to explain death. Just you can keep opening doors into that, and like talk about Michael Keaton, talk about the 80s, talking about they're bringing Beetlejuice back. I think this is like a weird, long-awaited sequel. So you can get into this like this. There's so I think when it's like I'm explaining to a child and the joke is I'm going too complicated for a child, then the jokes are kind of endless. I think that's a really good tip. Thank you for mentioning that. I could try to explain death. I could say I can't do it, but then walk into it and walk into every trap, and that's funny.
Yeah.
I never actually explain it to her.
The funny part is almost always that you're a ridiculous person. You know, that's kind of like the outcome of all of these jokes, really.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the niece is just being a young person, you know. So, like...
She's the straight man.
She's the straight man.
She doesn't even know she's there. Yeah.
Really, Seinfeld was the straight person in Seinfeld, you know. That's what we forget.
Yes. Larry David makes an appearance in my show because he hit the headlines for attacking Elmo. Now that's a great story. He literally physically attacked Elmo on live TV. I think it was a bit right, because he was promoting the last season of Curb. Elmo was there because he wrote that tweet asking if everyone was okay, and everyone thought, we are not okay, Elmo, and it went viral. But he came in and he like throttled Elmo, put his finger in his eye, like all this stuff. So I'm like, on my top 3 stories of the year are Larry David attacks Elmo, do a whole big thing about it. Then the next one is Larry David apologises for attacking Elmo. And then my top story of the year is this woman who, oh God, you know when you get a whole story and it's in a headline? This is really good. She found a January the 6th rioter on Bumble, got all his details, got him to confess, shopped into the FBI.
Whoa.
What a legend. She used a dating app to get one of the coup guys arrested. I love
the first
her.
time anything good has come from a dating app. Yeah.
Ever. And so then when I ask people about dating apps, I'm like, oh, don't worry, I'm not actually going to get into your love life. Have you ever done anything good for society? Through, like, clinging on to democracy and getting a snog. Have you done that? So sometimes the news can really work in your favour. And I've learned to look for those news stories where there's no time limit on them, really. But it's about a human or an animal just doing something that you can then get into that evokes an emotion.
I agree with you, but also remember that the most ridiculous thing about these stories is that you're ridiculous. Like, that should always be the kind of outcome, is like how, like what you would do and how, you know, like your emotions and your reactions to it should always be the thing that kind of bubbles to the surface every time.
Yes.
Great. Do you have anything that you'd like to plug?
Yes, I suppose so. Edinburgh, I'm going to Edinburgh Fringe. I'll be doing my show the 15th to 25th of August. It's called Doom Scrolling. Tickets are already on sale. Please buy. And I mentioned the Liz Truss show, so I'm doing the first ever like semi-improvised show, like writing with my friend Noreen Skinner, who's a brilliant Liz Truss impressionist. She's getting a lot of work at the moment with that. That's the 29th of May at Ace and Eights in North London, so if you are around in London.
So it was really lovely to speak to you, yeah, thanks for getting in touch and thanks for being on the show and everything.
Thanks for your advice. I'm going to definitely have a think about it. It's very useful. Thanks a lot.